And we're rolling. Stole your line, Joel. He's still mad.
Yeah, you did. No, it's your line, man.
All right, you guys ready to do this?
Wow.
You ready to do this, bro? Hey, welcome to another episode of the Our Normal Podcast. I'm your host, Saul Jones, and I'm sitting here as always with my audio engineer, Joel Cowan.
Thank you, Saul.
And my lovely co-host, Joel. Also Joel. My lovely co-host, Brian Hoodie.
That is me.
Do not call him Sweatshirt.
Just don't do it.
And our guest, very special guest, executive news producer at, is it Intercom, right?
Yeah.
At Intercom, CBS News Radio.
Yep.
And he just had us on his show on, what, Friday?
Friday.
And it is Colton Salaz.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for
Thanks
coming.
for being
man.
on, man.
Yeah. This is huge.
I appreciate it.
This is awesome.
How's do you know what? Before I forget again.
By the way,
before we get started, I just want to remind everybody, go to our website at thisisournormalpodcast.com. Everything you need to know about us is on there. You can find links to iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, Stitcher. You guys know the deal. Go there. We want to thank everybody who's gone to iTunes, hit subscribe, and especially that rated us 5 stars and left us comments. We appreciate all those.
yes, thank you.
Much appreciated. It means a lot to us. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by Serenity Sober Living down in South Orange County, California. If you need men's or women's sober living as of August, hit us up. Hit the contact link on thisnormalpodcast.com, and we will get you hooked up. We highly recommend. Wow.
Can you talk today, bro?
No,
By the way, highly recommend.
highly recommend it. My timing's awful. So, I like to start them off a little lighthearted. As you when you interviewed us, you mentioned that we do kind of take a little lighthearted.
That's what I like about you guys.
Yeah. You have any kind of silly story from either getting sober or going to? Did you go to treatment?
Yeah, I did. I went to multiple treatment centers. When I was in San Diego, I went through drug court. So
Okay.
Definitely one of us.
yeah. So, but I guess something funny. It's funny in retrospect, but it's not funny when it happened.
Right. Never is, but always is later.
I first got addicted to pills, like a lot of people do, and
Now
I
we're
was
talking my language.
Yeah, and I was in college at the time, and so I was on speech and debate. I was a super dorky college kid, and they took us to China. We got to go to Shanghai, and so I was already addicted. And
did you bring pills with you?
yeah, so
Because you have to. Because has to.
I mean, so I had a prescription that I had that was like 60 pills only, and so I went to Tijuana, TJ, because I grew up in San Diego, and
Hell yeah.
so I went across the border, came back across the border, and I just brought like tramadol with me just to get me through. I know. It was like I just went to the first pharmacy right across the border, and you can't really get anything good at those pharmacies. So not that anybody should try that, but so then I get on a plane, and I had like 60 of my Norcos and like 300 of these tramadols, and we go to first. I didn't realize until after that I smuggled it into 3 different countries. We went to I came back to the United States, then went to Canada, and then flew to Shanghai. And I of course I ran out of the Vicodin like super quick.
Yeah,
and
right.
so I was there I had to be there for 3 weeks, and I already did 60 of them like within like less than 5 days. And so I'm like, fuck. And so I had to.
That's a morning for me.
Yeah. Well, this was like still like in the beginning too. So I'm like, okay, well, I at least have these tramadol. Well, these were like laced with rat poison or something.
Shit.
And so
Lucky.
I already fell out from like a seizure like twice from these things.
I think that's how they manufacture tramadol, with rat poison. Actually.
Yeah, which like you're saying that's so serious. I'm like, you know what? That's probably very true. And it wouldn't shock me. And I know that it lowers your seizure threshold anyways, but this is like I took 3 of them, and so I was at one of the 7 wonders of the world, which is the Terracotta Warriors, which is like, they're all different. They're all like the same height as people, and they have different beards. This crazy thing. And like I'm smoking a cigarette outside, and I have orange juice in the other hand because everything tastes like shit there. So I'm like not eating anything. And I drop my orange juice, And I'm like, that sucks. And then
Does it ever?
I know.
That's a bummer.
And I'm like, I was like, God, it's like my motor skills are off. And then I'm like, my cigarette drops. I'm like, well, that really sucks.
What is going on here?
And then all of a sudden, like,
All right, hands, get it together.
yeah. And then I run to the bathroom, and in foreign countries, the bathrooms are like the like a closet. They're literally like the doors are all the way to the floor.
Yeah.
So no one gets not here awkward where you see people like legs underneath the stall.
Oh yeah.
And, so there's no foot tapping.
I've always
nothing like
wondered
that.
why don't they just make them go all the way down?
It's an American thing. We like to see each other's feet.
They're like, we want to see a little ankle while
Yeah.
you're taking a doozy.
And so I was like throwing toilet water on my face, and I was like praying to every saint that I could remember from like Catholic school to like get me out of this, because I knew I was about to fall out.
Yeah.
And I was like, don't do this in a communist country. Like I don't. I was like, what? I don't know what their laws are. I was like, I knew that, like, I've seen like crazy movies with girls going to prison for life, and I'm like,
Right.
this is not going to be good. And
Should really not have watched all that Locked Up Abroad on the plane ride.
yeah, right. And so, of course, I fell out, and I woke up to someone banging on the door and like broke down the door.
Let me see your ankles.
yeah, basically.
It was an American cop.
What sucked is that I was with a one of the girls that was with us. She was pregnant. She was like 4 months pregnant, and her fiance came with her, and he is a border patrol agent. And so he had all my pills out on the
Oh no.
the at the hotel room when we got back to the hotel, and he's all like pointing to each one, which like what kind of pharmacy they came from in Mexico. I'm like, and I remember he still pointed out one. He's like, that's morphine. I'm like, I wish that was morphine. I was like,
go on.
I was like, are you sure about that one? I was like, because I don't think I would have fell out if it was morphine.
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I got in so much trouble for that, and I remember thinking, like, I called my mom, like every good 22-year-old does, called my mom.
I still do that at 29.
Yeah, I know. I'm 30. I just turned 30, and I call my mom constantly. And my mom's in recovery, but like at the time she wasn't. She was a drunk bitch at the time. But like, she was like, "Do not go to the doctor there." And she's like, "I don't know what kind of laws they have." She's like, and she was kind of smart about it, because when we got back to the United States, they tried to like kick me out of college. They tried to, and I mean, I deserve this, mind you. Like, I definitely, I was not like a nice person. And the only thing that hurt me was that my speech coach, who loved me to death, she was my communications professor. She had to send me home early and pay for it, and I still am making amends to her by paying her back $1,500 for that one-way plane ticket.
Yeah.
And she had to go in front of the dean of communications at the time was Grossmont Community College, and because I didn't go to the doctor, there was no record of me overdosing. I just said
probably a good thing. Then.
It was
sound advice from your mother.
Yeah, exactly. She was, even though she was in between drinks, she knew what she was talking about. And I was like, the dean was like, "So I heard you overdosed." I'm like, "No, I didn't. I just got sick." And there's a
I
student.
actually underdosed.
Right. I was actually just trying to maintain.
Yeah.
But you have a student advocate with you when something like that happens. They're kind of like a mini attorney for you as a student. And I'm sitting there, like, before we go in, she's like, "Hey, like, do you have anything that can help me out? Because you're about to get kicked out of college."
This is so bad.
And the thing is, it's a community college in California. As you guys are from California, it's a public college. So if I got kicked out of there, I got kicked out of every CSU. I couldn't go to any other community college. I could only go to like Pepperdine or Point Loma Nazarene. Like, so it's like another like $50,000 a year colleges, and so I'm like, I'm screwed. I was like, well, I just got sick. And she's like, well, let's just keep with that story. Because it wasn't like a lie.
Right.
But
You were sick.
I was for sure.
Serious.
And imagine going through withdrawals in a third world communist country.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
And it's the communist.
Bad enough where I'm from.
Dude,
Right?
I can't
It's like
do that
bad enough.
in rehab, let alone.
Oh my God. Like, I was curled up, like vomiting, and they're like, just knock it off. Just why are you so sick? I'm like, because I'm a heroin addict. Like, what do you want me to say here? Like, I'm addicted to pills.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, looking back, it's super funny, but like,
Absolutely.
at the time, I like, like when you're in it, like it just seems so normal. Like it just
Right.
seems
Yes.
like
This is our normal.
I know, yeah. Like it's just like, let's tell another lie about what I did abroad, and it's
Right.
like, but looking back, it's like, God, I was such a horrible person.
I had a similar type of thing with going out of the country. I was married at the time. We went on a cruise with my parents, and we brought a shit ton of pills, right? But we were both deep into taking pills at the time, so we went through them in like the first 2 or 3 days.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Ouch.
But luckily the cruise was to Mexico, and so we were in Ensenada, and I was like, let's as we're walking down the street with my parents at the time, actually, they all keep hitting us up like, oxys, and in my mind I'm like, yes, please, not in front of these two.
Yeah. You're like, no,
Not in
get
front
that
of
away
the
from me.
narcs. Ew.
Yeah. Signaling.
You know?
Slip of them your cell phone number.
but so we were able to shake my parents and then go back, and went up to the pharmacies, and I was trying to buy pills, and they're like, we're not selling to this guy, and I'm like, you were offering them earlier.
Yeah.
And then we end up we spent like way overpriced for what we thought was a bottle of like Vicodin. And I get it back to the room, and it's clearly just like sugar pills. And I mean, I knew
My heart just sank.
didn't
Thinking about that.
like, didn't stop
Poor
me
guy.
from trying to take them anyways. I was
No, of
like,
course.
this is worth the shot, like I had major sugar rush. I was bouncing off the walls. No, but
Oh, that sounds horrible.
dude. So then I had to withdraw like the last couple days of the vacation, and it was awful. My parents were like, "What's going on?" I'm like, bad food.
That's
or
what I was like. I was like,
something,
what
you
did they
know?
think? Like,
Yeah. I think they always kind of knew what was up a little bit, but because I was, on opiates, you can hide it so well. So they never had any evidence.
so well,
Yeah, in our heads at the time.
One eye open if you're nodding out, just rolling on yourself.
But yeah, so that kind of ruined that vacation.
I bet it's just a little bit.
But then my addiction continued for another 7-8 years after that. It was, I mean, obviously it's still going on, but before I even attempted to go to recovery, obviously now I'm in recovery, but I didn't even attempt to get clean for another 7-8 years. And how long did it take for you?
I was gonna say,
I was 22 at the time, and I got sober at 27.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm 30 now, so I'm going on 3 years sober. But
nice, man.
I mean, but I was in and out of jail after college. Like I did drug court in San Diego, which definitely like saved my life at the time.
Really? What was your experience like with drug court? I don't know too much about it. I've just heard of people
everyone
going through
failing it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not an easy program, right?
Okay.
So I always tell people like that either like have never done it or like you're only going to hear people say bad things that didn't complete it, right? Because they got terminated. So, but like it's an 18-month program when I was in it, which was in 2013. I actually got in on July 3rd of 2013. Bill Hurst, and I remember that because it took me 3 years to get out of it. It's an 18-month program. And the only good thing about it, like really, is that the counselors were so concerned with you actually succeeding. And the judge she was super concerned with you succeeding.
That's important.
And she, like, it's the only place where you would go as an addict or alcoholic where the district attorney and the public defender and the judge are all on your side.
Right.
So it was the only place where you could go where everybody was on your side, including law enforcement officers. And the only thing that they asked you was just don't lie, right? Like just don't lie about using and don't go into her courtroom high.
Right.
That was like the
It
pet
seems
peeve.
easy enough.
It does, but it's not.
Yeah,
It's
95% of people who go through the program.
can't seem to,
I don't know if you guys have heard of what's it called? Things You Should Know About, or whatever that podcast is.
I've heard of Conversations You Should Know
That.
About.
Yeah,
Colton
that's
Salaz.
the podcast that you'll be on.
I forgot to drop that one, by the way. Conversations You Should Know About. Colton Salaz.
Yes, by CBS News Radio. But they did a whole episode on things you should know about drug court, and it was really cool how they did it. But and it's really funny too. But yeah, it's like Hood said, it's not easy. A lot of people fail it, but I go in, I get in with my best friend, Ashley, and she's doing really well now, which I'm happy for. And she has actually more time sober than I do, but her and I were a fucking mess. Like we were in there, and like we were doing Suboxone because like they didn't test for it at the time. And the thing we did methadone like twice, but like because they didn't cry, we're like, oh, that's worse than Suboxone, so that has to be tested for. But it wasn't. Like, and so
they're not testing for methadone.
But you guys risked it anyways, huh?
Yeah. So they probably do now, but like this is prior to like dipsticks even having like our sober living. This is the really I was going to tell you this is really fucked up, is that they put you in a sober living like that they pay for like 2 months.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
And so like that was the cool part, because none of us had anywhere to go, like and my dad was like, just put him in prison, like he's better off in prison. I'm like, thanks, Dad. Or like put him in residential, and like that's like the last thing like an addict wants to hear, especially like this close to getting out of jail. Like you don't want to hear you're going to a residential treatment.
You're like,
facility.
I'm just getting out of being locked away. I want some freedom.
I get that. Like looking back, like how naive is that? But like at the time, it's like I was almost in jail for like 6 months, so it's like, oh damn, I wanted to be out, and it was like, I'll do drug court. I'll be a good kid. I'm not gonna pee clean. I'm a real boy. I'm gonna pee clean. Like it's gonna be my pee too, but like that didn't work out that way. But they put us in these sober livings that she owns. The Joel knows where it's in San Diego. It's East County, so it's like this very like white suburban area of like it's like where the rodeo is, like Lakeside. Yeah, I went to. That's exactly where it is.
Does he ever?
Knows the exact.
I've been to the rodeo.
I actually went to El Capitan High School. That's on Lakeside. And she owns the most sober livings in this area. And so drug court has a contract with her in that area, because there's 4 drug courts in San Diego. And we're at the El Cajon drug court in East County. So this lady that owns them also is the executive director of the methadone clinic.
Oh shit.
And I'm like, you legal dope dealer.
Yeah, I know,
and the thing is, we couldn't be on anything in drug court. Like before, like the executive director of drug court that I had, Deborah Snyder, who like greatly impacted my life, before she took over, if people got super strung out, they would put them on methadone for a little bit. If you're pregnant, it's a totally different story. But when she came in, she was like, no, like we'll put you in jail and detox you, or we'll send you to detox. We're not doing this nonsense anymore of like putting people on methadone.
That's good.
Right.
That's
and like at the time I was like, I hate you. Like, why are you doing this to me? Like, like you're just a cruel woman. I was like, it's because you're a meth addict. You don't understand what it's like.
Right.
But
have some compassion.
Yeah, I know. But she like was so smart. But like this other crazy woman that was in charge of the methadone clinics, like she was all in it for the cash. And like, I mean, even at the time, like we even, my mom canceled a check on her because she kicked me out.
Shit.
Because my first sanction in drug court, which that's where you get in trouble, is I peed dirty for Suboxone, and I legitimately did not know what Suboxone was. Like drug court made me worse in some aspects, because like I didn't know how to like fake a pee test. Like, I didn't know how to do any of that. I was like the run of the mill criminal, like the one that's like, a hazard to society and like a tax burden, like
tax burden. You said,
like I have like my Obama phone and my EBT card, like that's like that's like my extent, and I'm banned from all Walmarts, like that. That's my life.
Can't legally own a bank account anywhere.
No, like check system's a bitch. Like they don't want you.
I think I'm still in that.
Oh, I'm still in it. Like I can't believe I even got a freaking checking account right now. But so it's like I learned all these things. I had no idea what Suboxone was. I didn't know that like it's legitimately a good drug if you're trying to detox, like but if you're sober you can get loaded on it.
Oh, for sure. I saw guys,
I never knew that
in treatment. They were taking the strips, the dissolvable strips, and they were mixing them into a toothpaste cap, right, with water, snorting it. Snorting it.
I've actually shot them up before.
Well, go on.
That's all I got.
No, we don't skim over
that. I would not recommend. Very bad idea, by the way.
Especially if you're detoxing, it's a very bad idea, because I thought I was going to die when I did that, when I shot it up too.
Well, Suboxone is the one that has the blocker, the naloxone in it, which plays an antagonist on the mu receptor in the brain, so it can actually put you in anticipated or precipitated withdrawal.
Yeah, if you take it too early.
Yeah.
And I've actually experienced that as well.
It's like
not
death.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like imagine withdrawals times 1,000.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
your heart, like I think all of us have gone through withdrawals pretty bad. Like, but like this was like I felt like I could feel my heart coming out of my chest and I got into precipitated withdrawals.
Sweating.
Oh my!
Is
like
it-
Throwing up. The worst stomach cramps. Oh my god.
oh yeah, the
man.
stomach cramps. Like it felt like. I'm assuming what like a woman feels like when she has like a baby. I don't know, but it's like something's kicking. Like it was the worst.
I had a buddy in treatment that had a seizure, and he went down, and the EMTs came over and everything, and they were gonna hit him with Narcan, and he heard that and was able to come to like no,
Fine, bro.
and Narcan will do the same thing.
Oh
So
yeah,
he's
'cause
like,
that's just pure like naloxone. I mean that's just they we had this guy that he overdosed. He just got out of treatment. This is before I was in drug court, and like he was about to fly back home to like I don't know someplace on the East Coast, and his parents sent him a bunch of money. So we're like, fine, yeah, we'll take him for what he's got.
So
So
he's flying home to not California. That's what every other state is.
right, yeah, not California. Yeah. Oh, I miss California. But so he like bought all the dope, and so he overdosed, right? And so we had Suboxone on us, and we put it under his tongue, and because it has the naloxone in it.
That's smart thinking.
Yeah.
I would not think to do that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that in my head as we're talking about
And
this. I wonder if that would work.
It does, and it brings them out. But the thing is
shit.
it causes precipitated withdrawals.
Yeah.
But the thing
Well,
is, he
fuck
wasn't
it.
addicted. Like, I mean, he was just, but he was so mad that he had to wait 18 hours to get loaded. and I was like,
Our thought process is like, you
well,
should just let me die. If I gotta wait 18 hours,
Yeah.
just
I'm
let me
like,
die next
are
time.
you serious?
We're done.
Like, I'm like, really? Like, you're mad at us?
Right.
And I was like, we'll just take the dope and leave. Like,
Yeah,
have
check
fun
his
by
pockets.
yourself. Yeah.
Let's go.
And so it was just like, yeah, we used. I remember using that one time, but it's like, yeah, your thought process is so fucked
That's
up.
so
Illogical.
fast thinking, man. There's no way I would have thought like use the subs. Try
Yeah,
this out.
like, and it was like, that was one of my first experiences with Suboxone.
Yeah.
And I didn't know like really what they were until I got into drug court because I abused them in drug court.
Right.
And like I was probably like the first person in their history to end up going to residential treatment because of using Suboxone. Because like I kept like
Would
I just,
he in for subs?
yeah, that literally. Like I was like, I ended up going to 2 residential treatment facilities. One was 6 months, and the other one I was in for 11 months.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
And was it out here in Vegas or in
no,
California?
in California, one was called Stepping Stone, the other one was called Crash.
Oh, I've
And-
heard of Stepping Stone.
Yeah, me
before.
too.
Yeah, Stepping Stone is a really nice one. Crash is a hard ass program.
Yeah.
Like it's
No wonder I've never heard of it.
He couldn't
it's-
last there.
I mean, like they do stuff like that. You know, I learned a lot. It's a behavior modification, right? So it's like
Okay.
their whole idea, their whole concept behind it is that if you can't change your behaviors, like you're here for a reason. Like you can't live in society, so we need to change your behaviors no matter how small it is. Like,
Yeah.
So like if you got in trouble, you had to sit on this bench and do a bench hour, which is
Right.
you read the rules of the program for an hour long, and the rules are only like 3 pages. So you're like, your ass is already hurting like
Right.
4
Yeah.
minutes in.
Yeah.
Or you have to read the big book if you're like phase 2, like if you're already, but if you're like first 30 days in, all you're reading is those. Like
Yeah.
it's stuff for like not making your bed correctly. It's a co-ed program. If a guy talks to a girl, you're not allowed to do that. Like there's an exile thing where like you can't talk to anybody for 3 days. You get put outside. You have to wake up before everybody, 30 minutes before everybody else.
You get put outside.
Outside. Yeah. Outside. Like if it's raining, you have your hood on. Like,
Wow.
I mean, like, and so like, and that's for like borderline stuff that could get you kicked out. Like
Yeah.
I got caught smuggling in a energy drink.
Yeah.
And it was a 5-hour energy, and I had my whole underwear drawer was like full of 5-hour energies. And I was like, why do you like, and I probably like got an ulcer from so many take. But it's because like I could hide them, and it was
Right.
total dope fiend behavior looking back
Yeah.
now, because it was
Yeah.
just like the main counselor. I was working in the office. I was like one of these like goody two shoe residents that was able to work in the office, and so I was like paying people as they were going to their their doctor's appointments. I'm like, here, give me 5-hour energy. I'll give you one. And so and I didn't realize like people were stealing them, like not just buying.
shit.
I'm like, dude, don't put that on me, dude.
Right,
I was like,
right.
but this girl who I was friends with in the house, and we're sitting up there at the front desk, and there's certain situations where you could talk to the opposite sex.
Yeah.
And like one of them is like for like business reasons, like doctor's appointment, whatever. So we're at the front desk, and she's like, "Oh, hey, give me some of that." I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, what? Don't feed me. I went to the bathroom, drank over half of it, put water in it, screwed the cat back on.
5-hour energy.
That's when you know you got a problem.
Right. And I was like, I thought that was so normal. I was like, hey,
it is.
To be fair, it was.
Yeah. Like, here you go. And the dumb bitch, she got caught by the freaking counselor and the main counselor. And so I get put on exile for 3 days, and I'm like writing home, "Mom, I'm so sorry, I got put on exile."
No, she should only be in exile for 1.5 days because I only technically gave her half of 5 hours.
Right? Yeah.
Did you guys even test it?
I was like, there was barely any caffeine in there. I was like, and I was going 3 days out here, and it was over 4th of July weekend because I fell asleep outside and during the NA meeting.
Worked out great. Got to see the fireworks.
Well, the fireworks woke me up. And I was like falling asleep, and then I heard this boom, and I wake up. I'm like, oh, I'm like, that's 4th of July. Because you're not allowed watches, like you're not allowed a phone, nothing like that.
Oh my gosh, that's torture.
Yeah, like you're not allowed to use the pay phone for 90 days. Like you have to, like you can receive letters after 14 days.
Some of that I kind of like the first time I went through treatment, I didn't get my cell phone for 30 days, and I was pissed. Like I wanted to leave over it. but the thing was not having that contact from back home. I was able to separate myself and kind of focus in on me as much as I didn't want to do it. It was once I did it, I was like, oh, this is great. And then to be honest, after I got my phone back, having that separation, I was like, I think I can go a little longer, and I did. And then this next time in treatment, we actually got him the first day you're there. You were allowed to have him back for an hour at a time.
I don't like that.
I don't either.
Because, well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say people ran because of it. Because people get calls. Because the minute we get sober, right, we all these people that we've been excommunicating for so long because we want to just be ourselves and do drugs. The minute we get sober, our prefrontal cortex is unnumbed. All of a sudden, we're like, I need to call my mom. I need to call my dad. I need everybody wants to
take care of everything right now.
Yeah, and we're human again, you know. And so, but a lot of that communication, people then want to run back home and try to fix things or run back to their jobs. At least I did. I tried to run to my job.
I think there should always be some sort of blackout period when you go into rehab, and not just for the running thing, but also because some of these kids go in there, and that's why people sneak cell phones is so they can get drops. It's like you don't need to be bringing drugs into rehab and taking other people out with you. Exactly.
Mikey snuck heroin.
I was a house
our
manager
buddy
for a couple years.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, and that that happens. I couldn't see it at the time. Like I was like, God, this is such a restrictive program.
Right at the time.
Like they want us to live like nuns. I'm like, I don't understand this. And like we could only get coffees on Tuesdays. I mean Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Like, but Tuesdays and Thursdays, no coffee. Yeah. And there's only 2 cups anyways. But we were all sneaking more of it in the back. Right. And it's just such addict behavior. But yeah. But like they had a rule that everybody couldn't understand, and you really didn't understand it until you got out of the house, which was your first 30 days. You couldn't talk to anybody else that was 30 days as well, 30 days and under. So it didn't matter if you had it didn't matter if you had sobriety, that because we had people coming from prison that had maybe some had 2 years sober. Like my best friend in San Diego, Frank, has 5 years sober now, and he went into the program with 2 years because of AB 109. He was doing a local prison term. So and he took it seriously. He didn't want to use while he was in jail, so he didn't. And so when he got into the program, he was already 2 years sober, but his sentence made him do a residential program. But you had to carry this book around that had the rules in it, and it's called a red book, and it was big and red. It was
that's how they marked you guys.
Yes, that's literally that's how they marked us. Like,
don't talk to anyone else with a red book.
And that's how it was. And like you would get in trouble if you didn't have it with you. So like you had to have it with you in every group. You had to have it with you at dinner, like at breakfast. The only time you didn't have to have it clearly is like when you're in your room, but and you had to turn it in at night and check it out in the morning. But if you caught talking with somebody else that had a red book, like you get a bench hour, or the person that's like your buddy, your shadow that has to follow you around for 10 days, they would get the bench hour because they're supposed to teach you better. But the whole thing is that once you realize, like, it's because even if you're just out of prison or just coming from jail, you have that street mentality. And not that it's a bad thing, but it's like that flight or fight syndrome, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you know, like I'm the first time I'm dealing with problems, you know, my mom is sick or whatever. It's like, I need to go handle this business now, especially people with kids, right? Like they're like, I want to get out. And talking to other people that are in that same mentality as you is not good.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah,
because we're always like, oh, they're going to be with us this whole time in the house, so why can't we talk to them? And like, I think 2 people lasted the whole time with me. So I'm like, there was like 50 of us, and I'm like, none of them are my friends. But at the time, it's like, you think it's such a harsh punishment. You're like, God, that's weird. But like, really, like, I saw, because I was in that house for 11 months, was that multiple times people came in with drugs that were under that time period, or the biggest perpetrators were girlfriends. They would drop off dope for their boyfriends.
I saw that so much, man. People's other halves were just sneaking them. Yeah, man.
It was like, and just the crazy shit. One girl faked a pregnancy. Like, even came in with like ultrasounds and stuff.
Ultrasounds.
Yeah.
See the lengths we're willing to go to.
Ultrasounds.
She came in. She straight, and like, I was like, kind of suspicious, because like she was like kind of like maybe a heavier set girl, very pretty and very tall. So I'm like, well, maybe I can't tell she's pregnant. Like, I'm not gonna like walk out of like, how far along are you? You know. But she, like, her boyfriend.
What really tipped me off was the ultrasounds were hand drawn.
Etch a sketch. But like, I looked out, because like what she did is she put it in a frame, and there was Suboxone in the frame, and because the house was so big, they couldn't test that many people at one time for Suboxone, so they needed like tips, like, for, because those are expensive drug tests. So they, like, if they knew somebody was naughty now, but they couldn't catch them for heroin or something, clearly they're gonna probably shoot them a Suboxone or methadone test. But he wasn't taking them, he was selling them, so it's like he was just getting the money. And so I remember, like, he was in the house with me for like 6 months, and she had not changed in size. And when I met her,
because not pregnant, I forgot.
Yeah, and when I met her, she was like 5 months pregnant, supposedly, right? And I'm like, shouldn't she be giving birth?
Later, right?
Like, and I'm like, it's not an elephant. It's not supposed to be bacon for 2 years. Like, and like, those, with like realizing those like things were straight off of Google. Those ultrasounds, like, they were.
Oh, that makes sense.
And because she put them in a frame, so like framed it to make it not look like.
Put it in a frame.
Laminated it first.
Crazy stuff, right? Like,
Man, we go to some lengths, man.
We really
That's
do.
crazy.
I don't even like the lengths that I went to. Like, it's like nuts. But like, just to like finish the thought about the drug court was that like, it was a very good program, and like, it helped me. I should have went to prison. Like, I definitely should have went to prison. I had 6 felonies. And I had a 7-year suspended prison sentence.
Damn, you're hardcore, man.
It was
Colton's
like
hardcore, bro.
I know, that's why I was like, people don't think like that.
No way. I would never
like,
expected, man. That's awesome.
And I mean, a lot of it was like identity theft, you know, commercial burglary, but people think that's so. I'm like, it's stealing from Walmart. Like, that's a commercial burglary. But I had all these things, and I even got arrested while in drug court for a previous charge my brother pressed charges on me for using his social security number. And I was supposed to keep that felony, because that was it was felony of impersonation. So I was lucky it didn't get to be a federal charge, because I used his social security number. And so they were like, okay, well, we'll let you stay in drug court, and you'll get your other stuff maybe reduced to misdemeanors, but this you're going to keep as a felony. And I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, I mean, that's better than the alternative. And when I graduated, my mom, she got sober at the time. Finally, she'll have 6 years. This August.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, and
that's cool.
She went with me to drug court, and they ended up dismissing all of them. And like, and you know, I was there for a very long time, 3 years. Supposed to do 18 months, and I got to know the people, like the probation officer, our district attorney, or public defender, especially the judge. The judge gave you like Christmas presents. Like, she really cared, and she even said like, she was like, this is the only good part of her day. She's like sentencing like child molesters and like murderers, like, and she's a trial judge, so like, we would have to leave during juries, like when juries would come in. So she was just like, you guys are the best part of my day. I get to see people who change their lives.
It takes someone like that is so passionate and cares so much to really help people like us out.
Make a difference.
You know, that's what it takes for us, because we see it if you're just there for a paycheck, or if you're there
absolutely
to, you know, because you have passion about
and the thing is, like, she's a normie, right? Like, so she didn't, but the thing is, she started the first drug court in San Diego County in 2000, and so this was in 2014 and 15, and they usually rotate you out, and so that you don't get burnt out on it, but she requested it permanently, and it's always on Thursdays in that courtroom. and she was just like, like she always would say like, I don't enjoy putting you guys in jail.
Right.
Like, like that's just what is asked of me by the state of California. Like I have to, you guys signed on the dotted line. I didn't. Like you guys agreed to, if you didn't do X, Y, and Z, this is what would happen.
Right.
But she was always like willing to look for alternatives. Like, can we put them in residential instead of send them to prison? Can we try this again? You got in trouble if you didn't get a job right away. And she would give you like, instead of sending you to residential treatment, which is what they're supposed to do, she would give you like public work service until you could find a job.
Oh, that's cool.
And she'd always give people leads. Like her son owned a construction business, and so she would pass out his card to all these guys in the program.
That's awesome.
So it's like she was like, and even the counselors there, the Debbies, we had two, Debbie Snyder and Debbie Hernandez, and they're both in recovery with double-digit sobriety, and like
that's cool.
I always thought they were like the bane of my existence, right? Like I was like, why are you getting me in trouble? They're like, maybe you shouldn't like be sneaking in pee, like try not switching a bottle once in a while.
5-hour energy.
I know. I was like, right. But like they took so much pride in what they did, and they don't work for drug court anymore. No. They went on to bigger and better things in the treatment industry.
Good
and
for them. That's awesome.
But the thing is, like, if it wasn't for them, like my mom still sends them Christmas cards and stuff. Like, and I didn't stay sober. Like I did relapse after that, but I got sober right after. Is that like, if it wasn't for them, they always say it too, like if they planted the seeds, right? Like, and it was for me, like when I wanted it to do it, like I knew what to do. Like, then that's what happened.
Yeah. I mean, the disease progresses and we relapse sometimes. And when we do, we don't lose the recovery we had before. So the recovery progresses just as well, as long as we can get right back up, And I've said it before, we learn these coping mechanisms when we go through like drug court, like you're saying, or going through treatment centers, but we're still so new at these coping mechanisms, at using them out. And so like with any skill, it's going to take time to practice. So it's all right if we fall down, as long as we get right back up.
Yeah. And I was very open when I relapsed, and it was like, I do work the 12 steps, and that's just a part of my aspect of recovery. But, I didn't do anything then when I was in drug court, but I did other things, and I ended up making, and I always encourage people that are like earlier in sobriety, especially like your first 60 days or so, like, whether it's a hobby or 12 steps or whatever, like, get with a group of like what you guys are doing, right? Like a bigger purpose, like, because if it's just my job, if it's just a significant other or something, like those are always going to let me down. Every single time.
For sure.
But like a group of people is less likely to let me down,
Absolutely.
Because like when I'm having a bad day, you're less likely to be having a bad day. Right. So
Absolutely.
It's like all of us don't have the same bad days. And, I didn't learn that like right away because of drug court. But I knew that when I was ready that I needed to do something. And my mom's a big advocate of the 12 steps. She can be a big book thumper at times. But she I
love to talk about that big book.
And she I mean, I was always like, it's always part of my story. It's like, if this bitch can get sober, anybody can get sober. Because my mom was a mess. Like, I mean, probably the most successful woman I've ever met in my entire life, but just a drunk 24/7, like just drunk through everything. And a great mom, but just a drunk. I mean, had fallen out from seizures because of withdrawals, and and that's like when you were talking about when you came on the show the other day, it was like, benzos and alcohol like that. Because I saw that firsthand. Like, if people don't get treatment from that, like, you will die.
Deadly.
Like,
it
I mean,
deadly.
It's, and I hear people in 12-step programs, like, urging people to stop without going. And I'm like, you are not a doctor.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I was like, we are not, that's my biggest thing about 12. It's like, we are not doctors. And so when you start telling people how they should take medication, how they should detox off something, that is not our place. Our place is to refer them. And the best experience I had was in a meeting. This guy came in drunk, right? And he's with a significant other. And they asked if anybody's 30 days, and he didn't even want to say he was 30 days or under because he was drunk. He was still drunk. And he's like, I'm not even an hour sober. And so in the middle of sharing, this guy that was like the OG of the meeting, he had like 36 years, he shares, you're not supposed to crosstalk in meetings, like, or like directly tell somebody.
That's
but
for
like,
after the meeting.
Yeah, but he was like, you know what? He's like, I don't. It was a super small meeting. It was probably like 6 people.
Yeah.
He was like, you know what? I'm gonna tell you something that probably other people aren't gonna like. Is that you can't stop drinking right now.
Exactly.
Like, you know, he's like, you are going to die if you stop drinking. He's like, and we are not the place that can help you.
Mm-hmm.
We can help you once you get sober.
Exactly.
And so like once you get a little bit of clarity, he's like, we'll talk after the meeting, but you cannot.
He might have saved his life.
Yeah, and like, you know, and I remember looking around and there's other people like with shocked faces, like, and it's like, but it's like I saw my mom have seizures from that stuff and how scary, and it's like heroin addicts, like we're like a bunch of pussies when it comes to it's like we're like we're gonna die, and it's
I'm sick,
and it's like
it lasts so long.
It does, but it's like then I would see my mom with her tongue like almost bit in half, right? And it's like, you know, shaking and like
what goes through your mind when you're seeing that stuff, man? That's gotta
like, you know, like when I saw it, like that's why it's like I'm so empathetic now, like because I've seen firsthand, both in my family and my life, like what alcoholism and addiction does to people physically, and not like, let's take out like, you know, the mental and spiritual aspect of it, like just physically, like you were talking about, like the neurotransmitters in the brain. It's like our brain gets so messed up and it gets so dependent on all this other stuff. And, you know, watching my mom grow up, like, and seeing that, like, I didn't understand. Like, I would dump her vodka out. And, like, looking back now, I'm like, that was so fucked up. And it was because, like, that was literally her lifeline. Like, like she needed it to survive. And unfortunately, it wasn't until she had a seizure back in her hometown of Maine and went to a hospital. And she was finally, you know, honest with the doctor and said, I'm an alcoholic. And he's like, we know. He's like,
need to tell us.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. We pretty much got that down. And he's like, well, here's Librium, and here's a magnesium supplement, and here's a
some Neurontin or gabapentin.
No, they just gave her Librium.
Oh, just Librium. Okay,
just Librium.
Yeah.
Usually that's all they'll give, that or Ativan. And they give her a 12-step schedule, and my mom was always in and out of it because of DUIs, and so I never thought it worked, you know. And I'm not here to push any agenda like that, but it's like
it saves lives. I've seen those programs. You know, my brother was one of them. His life's been saved by that.
And you know, like I say that my life has been saved, but like, you know, and I know we're closing here, but it's like one of the things that like I heard a speaker say one time is like when someone gets up to the podium or whatever and says, you know, it's because of a loving God that I'm sober today or something like that. I don't like to say that because it's like, that means if you're new, does that mean I don't have a loving God because I'm new? That I just got sober, so like I don't have 10 years. I could have had 10 years or whatever. So it's like, you know, it's that idea that's like, no, it's like it's a day by day thing. It's like it doesn't matter about who's doing what or who's better than what. And seeing my mom, you know, actually match her mouth with her feet and what she was doing, that led me when I was ready, right? Like I didn't want to hear it, like most of us do. I didn't want to hear it when I was out there. And then, you know, I didn't want to hear the pleas from mom, like, you know, just stop. It wasn't until I was ready, and my mom drove me to my first meetings. Like I was sick. I couldn't physically drive here in Las Vegas. I was living with her like every good 28-year-old. I was living with her, and you know, I ended up getting detoxed through an ER. They gave me 3 days of Suboxone and 3 days of Librium because I was co-addicted on alcohol too. So they just didn't want me to fall out from a seizure. And they said, good luck. And it was like, they were like, this fucker's going to be in here again. And then on April 18th of 2017, I drew my first sober breath, and I was so sick and so ill. Like I was like 160 pounds, and I'm like naturally like on 190, 200. And so I was a skeleton, and my mom's like, do you want to go to a meet? And I just want to get out of the house because I was smelly. And she drove, and this woman's blind in one eye, mind you. Like, and she has see out the other. No, and she has an SR22 permanently because she can't drive without one. And so it's like this woman's driving me to my first meeting, and you know, like I remember sitting there, and someone handed me a trash can and said, if you vomit, it's okay. You still get to stay. Geez. And I remember thinking like, that's like one of the nicest things anybody said to me, because no one wanted me around. You know, my parents didn't want me around. And like these complete strangers, when I was gonna vomit, we're like,
Yeah.
hey, cool, we got you. Like, it's okay.
Because they know exactly how you're feeling. They know that, like, this is just the process, you know?
And, like, I always try to remind people, like, and is that, I don't try to remember, I remember what it was like, but I don't ever want to forget what it was like on negative 3 days sober.
Yes.
Like 3 days before I got sober, right?
Yeah.
That horrible pain inside.
Yeah.
And that you wanting to quit so bad, but not knowing how to.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the unfortunate realization that it's over, right? At that point, I can't do this anymore, but
Right.
you think there's still something left in there.
Right.
And that so many times in recovery, I see people forget that.
Yeah.
And I'm still fairly new. I only have 2.5 years sober, but
congratulations.
thank you. I
That's
appreciate
beautiful,
that.
man.
But it's like, I don't ever want to get to the point where it's like, I forget what that was like. And I do think that, seeing my mom the way she was, like, my mom is a little bit more empathetic too, because she went through the physical aspect. A lot of people don't experience that with alcoholism. And I think heroin addicts are a little bit different breed too, because they feel that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so it's like, that's always in the back of their minds, right? That's like, that's the option. That's the option. So it's like, we can see with newer people, like, I've been there. So this is how we get out of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm forever grateful for, and it's just the my mom, like, the kindness of other people, you know? It's just the generosity of other people. If it wasn't for them, like, I wouldn't be sitting here, right?
It takes all of that for people that struggle with our disease to be able to get sober. It takes all of that. It takes
Support,
compassion, support, empathy from others. And I think that's one of the reasons that, the rest of the public needs to be educated on all these things you're sharing, so that they can see, we're humans. We're humans. We're human beings. We're just struggling with this defect. And once we get better, I mean, look at what you're doing now, man.
Yeah,
I
thank
mean,
God you didn't go to prison with the drug court instead, because imagine, you might not be here for one.
No, and that's what I always think about too, is that, like, because of my past experiences too, it's like I am definitely more empathetic towards, like, the prison community, right? Like, because I've been surrounded by people that have been to prison, that have gone, and I could have gone to prison. Yeah. That it's like, they're people too. It's just like, and there's no such thing to me, especially in recovery. It's like, we're not bad people trying to become good. We're sick people trying to get better, right?
Exactly.
So it's like, there's no generalities here, and there's no, like, definitives. Like, there's no, like, I've done a lot of bad shit in my life, right? Like,
Same.
and it's like, and there's that point, like, where does the good outweigh the bad?
Right.
And unfortunately, I'm gonna have to tip the scales more throughout my life towards good because of the bad shit I've done.
Yeah.
But it's
absolutely.
like, I can't always, like, because of those experiences, like, I know what it's like to not have money, right? I can be empathetic towards people that have that. I know what it's like to be a minority just by being an addict. You know, I know what it's like to know people that have gone to prison. I know what it's like to be on the receiving end of police brutality, right? So it's like all those things that, like, our society looks at today, like, it makes me a better person and understand, like, there's some shitty stuff in life that, like,
For sure.
and a lot of times addiction just gets overlooked and swept under the carpet because it's just like, well, that's their problem, not our problem.
Right.
Well, it's
Right,
becoming their problem.
Exactly.
Very quickly.
And that's, the unfortunate aspect. And that's why I also thank you guys for, like, doing your podcast, because it's, it needs more. And it's unfortunate we can't afford to have these viral videos of, moms at their son's, funeral, because it's like,
I've been to too many of those,
right? And it's
in
like
person,
and it's like,
geez.
what makes I'm not saying this to be mean, but it's like, that doesn't make it any. I've been to many myself. Like, walk in our footsteps for a day. That's normal, right?
Exactly.
And
unfortunately,
and to see that woman's pain for other people that, like, that's not their normal. It's like, oh, like, that's crazy. We need to do something about it. It's like, we've been trying to do something about it.
No, you don't say.
And so it's like, that's like, when you always see stuff, when I see stuff like that going through Facebook or on the newspaper, it's like, it makes me want to, like, strangle someone, because it's just like, there's so
what
much.
do we have to do for you guys to open your eyes?
And it's not just signing a petition. It's not just, donating money. It's like, sure, that helps, but it's like actually understanding that we're not different people. We just have a I like how you said it, an ability.
A defect. An impulse control disease.
I was like, when I was editing the other day, I'm like, God, that's a really good term. But and that's definitely what it is. And it's, you know, it doesn't make us any less human.
Right.
Unfortunately, society has deemed it that way because of arresting and policing and all that instead of a mental health problem.
It's a flawed system.
And you know, because we're set up for failure. You know, and it's like, but I do think stuff like this, I think education, number one, is the way to change that and prevent it from.
We were just talking about that yesterday. The education, and instead of those like DARE classes in school, why not put some sort of educational course on our disease? And I mean, it's an epidemic.
It's literally like it's killing.
How many people have to die before something changes?
You know, and I'll end with something funny. Is that you mentioned DARE. Yeah. My DARE officer in 5th grade got arrested for a DUI.
Oh shit!
With her dad's prescription of Vicodin and
oh my God,
a pound of crack and
wait, go
on.
A whole
pot. and she had it under her. I mean, God bless her, but her dad just died, and so like she stole his prescription and like and she's a sheriff, a deputy sheriff of San Diego County. And my mom and my dad opened up the newspaper one day. They're like, "What's your DARE officer's name?" I'm like, "Deputy so and so." I won't say it on the podcast. But she's like, "Deputy so and so." They're like, well, she's in jail right
not
now.
Anymore.
Not anymore. And I remember we had this huge assembly about like why Deputy so and so is and it was just like the parent. You could see the look on the parents' face. It's like, God, her poor kids are screwed.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh. Hey, I appreciate this.
Thank you guys for having me.
You're awesome. It's about that time. But dude, this has been amazing. You've been one of the best guests we've had, man.
Appreciate
this is great. And you're our last guest here. That we might actually air this one first because it's perfect. Yeah. But our last of the Las Vegas trials here. And I
appreciate you guys coming out.
Thanks for having us on your show too, man. On Conversations You Should
July
Know About.
4th.
Awesome.
And I'll send you guys a link.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. And thank you to my co-host, Brian Hoodie.
That is me.
Appreciate it. Do not call him Sweatshirt.
Just don't do it.
And as always, my audio engineer, Joel Cowan.
Thank you, Saul.
The man behind the podcast. You make this shit happen, brother.
We make this happen.
Yeah, we do. All right. And as always, Agent Papa's going to sign us off. Thanks a lot.
Hey, little Sammy, what you got in that sack? You're looking tough, like you ain't coming back. Hey, little Sammy, when are you going to fly? Times are rough, people get tough, but you got the stuff.